Dude, AV, can I be honest with you? I haven't even touched Smash this entire last week. I've been playing that new Battle Royale game.
Oh yeah, it's so good. I've really, I really think that the genre has evolved to an awesome point, and there's a lot of the new features that I've really wanted to see, and I might actually take the jump and start playing.
It's so fun, man. I love the L block, and I love the little zigzag.
Wait, what?
The L block in the in the
No,
line piece.
wait, we're talking about Apex Legends, right?
What? No, we're talking about Tetris 99. Welcome, broadcasting to the entirety of the Super Smash Bros. Community. This is Beyond the Metagame. I'm your host, Peon, this week live from Gordon Ramsay's Italian Villa. I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, AV. AV, how you doing, big guy?
Doing awesome, especially because he just taught me how to make his famous scrambled eggs.
Yeah, on the heat, off the heat, on the heat, a little cream fresh. Who owns cream fresh in their pantry, by the way? No one buys that, right?
Yeah, actually, that is the one ingredient that I left out because this is ridiculous. I'm not putting creme fraiche in my in my scrambled eggs.
Like, Gordon, I'm all about fine dining, but can we, customize this for the bachelor lifestyle? Like, come on, man. I'm 20. I'm in my 20s. I don't have time for this.
I bought the vine. I bought the vine tomatoes, but I'm not buying the creme fraiche. I'll agree with you.
I'm not going to carry around some fresh chives. Like, come on, guy.
All right, you got it. The chives. It lifts it. It lifts the entire thing.
AV, if I walk into the kitchen right now, am I going to be able to find chives?
I think likely, actually, yes.
All right. Well, fair enough. AV, before we get into our episode proper, I want to introduce some of our new countries that have been tuning into Beyond the Metagame. AV, why don't you do it, actually?
Sure. Today we got Oman, which is a cool, nice little country in the Middle East, borders Saudi Arabia and Yemen.
Really cool, man. Really cool. I always love the name of that one. Never been there. And don't really know much about it, actually. Do you know anything about Oman?
No, admittedly, but I'm glad that we have someone tuning in from there, and and reach out to us. Tell us a little about the culture. Both Peon and I are very open to all the cultures of the world, and we'd love to know more.
Yeah, educate us. Well, yeah. Hey, thank you for listening from Oman and from wherever you're listening. One extra quick bit of housekeeping. I really want to take just a brief second to shout out an amazing contributor to our community, Kung Fu Fish Stick. Kung Fu Fish Stick has written up, edited, designed a Beyond the Metagame wiki, which we are for the first time announcing and releasing to the world at large, and it will be linked in the show notes in the YouTube description, and it'll be posted on our Discord server, and it's where you can find some little recaps of episodes of some previous answers to questions that people have asked, as well as some other great resources on there. And Kung Fu Fish Stick's a very humble guy. But I really just wanted to say thank you. Really sweet thing. A lot of work got put into that. AV, anything to say?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of work, and I want to say I love it when people really take the extra mile to make something right. And he definitely did that, and I'm super impressed, and I'm really happy with how it's turned out.
Yeah, it was so did not need to do it, and still did, and it was just a very great gesture. And that kind of monumental effort is a one-way ticket to the Beyond the Metagame Hall of Fame, baby. Woo! Kung Fu Fish Stick, welcome to the Hall of Fame. No, seriously, man, thank you so much. It was an awesome thing you did, and we're excited to share it with the rest of the community. AV, this week you and I are going to be talking about ego, and this is a topic I'm super excited to bring up in this episode. Mostly because I've been struggling with myself, as we'll get into, and I just think it's like something that is important that isn't really talked about too much.
Yeah, I think it's super cool that we get into this. Like, we always talk about being self-aware, but then we don't talk about being self-aware of the most important thing, which is literally, I guess, being self-aware of the self. It's super meta. This is like,
man, this must be an episode of Beyond the Metagame.
You're to be on the metagame episode if we're getting like this. We're getting 2 levels of meta here.
Oh no! I'm gonna wake up from a dream and be next to like Leonardo DiCaprio in a second.
Yeah, the Vitruvian Man there's like a transparent Vitruvian Man that's like circling in the background. Just imagine that.
Not Leonardo da Vinci. I was making an Inception reference. Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, I thought you said Da Vinci.
Come on, man.
I thought you were like taking us back to the Renaissance.
I wasn't going Renaissance on you.
Both work. Yes, I'm super excited for this episode too, and I think we get into a lot of things that will really help you progress as a player. In fact, this is likely just important for your progression as is playing the game.
Yeah, I think this is an important one to listen to. I think it's a great topic. I'm glad we're covering it today, and I think it'll be a fun listen. AV, any last words before we get into this episode?
Yeah, sure thing. Just look out for us exposing ourselves and talking about our failures to basically control our egos, and kind of pull from this and basically figure out where you are, or where are you on like this scale of not being confident enough to overconfidence. And enjoy the episode.
Well, all right, guys, all that and more in just 1 second. Welcome back to Beyond the Metagame. This week, AV and I are here to talk about egos. Egos in Smash run rampant in a world where we're judged based on our success and based on our progress as a player. Sometimes it's a little easy to take things and to make them blow up your head, to get a big ego. And I'm excited to talk about it with you, AV.
So, are you speaking from experience?
Yeah. Well, actually, that's kind of the funny thing. It was like the inspiration for this episode. I mean, I'll be candid. Has like directly been a response to my own ego, and I've kind of, I don't know, man. I don't know what it is, but the last few days I've really been thinking about it, and I realized that my own ego specifically has been hindering my growth as a player, like, quite a bit.
Yeah, that's very self-aware of you. What specifically drove you to this realization?
I don't even know if it was like 1 point or something like that. Actually, I can trace it back to a conversation I had with my girlfriend. I had a tournament, and it was a local tournament, and I got into grand finals winner's side, and ended up losing in grand finals. Got bracket reset, game 10, great set. Great. I got outplayed. I have no excuses. It was an awesome set. But at the time, I wasn't mad at my opponent, certainly, but I was a little mad at myself. I was like, man, you keep having these situations where you're, 1 game away from winning a tournament, or 1 game away from upsetting a rival, stuff like that, and I keep throwing it away. And in those situations, well, okay, I'll stay grounded. And I was kind of just complaining to my girlfriend about this particular instance over the phone. And she was like, Dane, like, you don't really deserve to win. You know what I mean? You're not entitled to victory, Like, she made the analogy, like, I don't know if you ever played Super Smash Bros. 3D World, but whoever gets the most points after a level gets to wear a crown the entire next level. And she was like, this isn't Super Mario 3D World. Like, you're not just wearing the crown. Just because you were the best in your region at Smash 4 doesn't mean that you get a trophy now. I mean, like, it's a new game. You shouldn't be so hard on yourself. And I was like, that's kind of a good point. I've kind of been thinking about that, like, ever since she said that. And I realized I think it's an issue of ego.
And I think that's awesome that you came to that conclusion. And I think we should probably just go through, like, how do we think ego is built? Like, how have we gotten to this point where it's like you've crossed into this new game, you were clearly very dominant in the previous game, and now you've been hit with this roadblock, and you have no idea how it got there. So why don't we kind of go through like what is building this concept that's so like deeply rooted within our psyche?
Yeah, and I do want to say, like, I've personally been struggling with this recently, but I think this is something I see in a lot of people in all levels of play, really, too. I see this in top level and in low mid levels, but that's why I want to address this. I think it's like a problem that's universal and it's pretty important to address.
Yeah, absolutely. I see it pretty commonly. I've seen it start to come up in myself at times. And one of the things that I think is the most important thing is that we are reinforced by key milestones of progression. Whenever we get past an obstacle, we kind of pat ourselves on the back and we say, hey, this is awesome. We've done something cool. At the beginning, it's very easy, right? Short hopping 10 times in a row is that milestone. When you start learning anything, you get so many of these dopamine hits for like learning and accomplishing simple things. And just like in any MMORPG, leveling becomes a lot harder as you get more experienced.
I feel like this is like a heroin scenario you're tracing.
Yeah, I mean it's the
what
same.
Do you say? You're always chasing the high.
I mean, I would actually be lying to you if I said that it wasn't the case. It's actually very similar. I mean, our brain forms positive reinforcement and positive connections with these achievements and experiences, and we just want to get back to that high. And
is that why you had all those rusty syringes on your floor?
So that's neither here nor there, but
you told me you had diabetes.
Look, man, diabetes is hard. but,
you didn't let me get the Cinnabon. You said no, dude, my condition. Wow, dude, you're a jerk.
Yeah. I hope you can look at me the same after this.
Hey, man, forgiveness.
We're all on a different path. But I mean, speaking of that, we're all on a different like path of like trying to hit that same like reinforcement of like you want to get to that next milestone. I mean, for me, it's like getting like top 3 at my local, because I just got to the point where I got top 8 this for the first time at an ultimate local in my region. And then, but the thing is, now I'm just going to want more. And well, for someone else, it's probably I want to go from 0-2 to going 1-2 or 2-2. So it's like how do we control this? How do we or like what else can we figure out about what drives our ego?
Well, that's the challenge, right? The challenge is Smash, as I mentioned earlier this episode, is it's a one-on-one game, right? Where you have this immediate obstacle of you're beating your opponent, right? But there's kind of a metagame to it, right? Of advancing through rankings in your region, or maybe having a winning record versus a rival or a bracket demon of yours, right? There's these kind of meta goals that you have, these kind of meta elements to any individual game you have. Like, maybe you're playing a match and you think in the back of your mind, okay, next game, if I win this game, I play a really top player who, like, I know the matchup. I can beat him. Like, so I have to win this game, and then I can do the next game. And you have all these kind of outer elements beyond your immediate challenge, right? And that's at least like half of the fun as a competitor, is like achieving all of these meta goals, climbing up the ranks, doing all that. And as you do that, you build a certain sense of confidence, right? A certain sense of swagger. Like what was formerly, monumentally difficult is now trivial. You're previously your first match, second match were wars that were won or lost with blood and with sweat. And now it's a walk in the park. It's a lose-lose situation. You either win and no one cares, or you lose and it makes everybody at your tournaments talking about it, right? And you kind of one might argue that you kind of have to build this kind of sense of armor around you, this kind of sense of like entitlement. Like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm gonna beat my 1 and 2. I do it every week. I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna do it again, right? You kind of have to have that armor, one might say, but either way, I think that kind of is inevitable. Like you kind of wear your accomplishments on you, like the robe of Joseph, like the robe of many colors. You wear it around, and it's part of your tag. Like your tag AV, your real name's Abhi, but your name AV also holds some certain implications. You're the Donkey Kong player who got top 8 at the last local. You have these expectations around you, and you kind of have to wear them, right? And it's kind of a burden.
Yeah, it kind of is. I mean, it's also like by definition an expectation, because whenever you perform better, the TO will notice that and increase your seed. And your seed over time, if you show good performance over time, or if you show poor performance over time, that literally affects the placement of bracket and the expectation. And so with all of these expectations from the community, from yourself, from like things like tournament organizational aspects, it does create this like huge weight on you. And the thing is that there's in my opinion, there's no like real answer to this, but there's ways to deal with it, and there's ways to accept it and make it a part of a healthy competitive lifestyle. And the first thing I want to talk about is I kind of want to go deeper into what you're experiencing. Like where do you think it came from, and why do you like have this, for lack of a better word, sense of entitlement about like winning tournaments?
Yeah, I mean, it comes from history, right? Like, and I don't. This isn't a braggadocious thing. I say this with the caveat that I have not been playing that well recently, so don't take this as a braggadocious thing. But I've won a lot of tournaments in my days. I've had my own kind of micro success, my success in my own small circle of competitors, and I think once you win, or once you accomplish your goals, you kind of get addicted to that feeling. Like once you've accomplished something, it's very easy to tell yourself that you've already done it. Like doing the work, it's like you do a job and then your boss says do it again. It's like, well, I'm already done for the day, boss. I'm clocking out. It's kind of that sort of feeling where I feel like I've already put time in, and I'm no longer getting the result that I need. And here's the thing. I haven't done the work in Smash Ultimate. I haven't. The game's new. There's plenty of work to be done for all of us. But because I've, in my own mind, elevated myself to this stature, right, egotistically, it's been very hard to convince myself that the work is necessary.
That's really interesting. So what you're telling me is that you've been hitting some of my rusty needles.
Look, man, every man's got his vice.
But point being is that it's how do we start disassociating like previous victories with current expectations, especially when they're in a completely different context with a new game?
That's the question, isn't it? I mean,
that's the rub.
That's the whole. I mean, I was kind of hoping you'd tell me.
Yeah, okay.
No. So like,
yeah.
I think that self-awareness is the first part. I think talking through this, not only me and you right now, but everybody listening, like checking yourself periodically, like, making sure that your ego doesn't build, right? I think it's just kind of an issue of self-awareness, like we so often advertise. But I do think that there's a certain inevitability of it all. I think as you grow, and this is what we love about Smash. Smash is this platform for self-growth, both in and out of the game. It's this awesome, constant, challenge that could be measured. You can see your success in real time. You can see your GSP soar. You can see, yourself winning some money in tournaments and tearing through brackets. It's very tangible. When you do well. And I think that there's a certain inevitability about the fact that that's going to change a man or a woman. That's going to make you different. Like, you at the end of the journey is going to be different than you at the beginning. Like Frodo in the Shire was a lot different than like one-handed Frodo on Mount Doom? Is that what it's called?
You're out of luck. I have not been educated in those references.
Wait, what? You haven't seen Lord of the Rings or read the books?
Look, I mean, I know we've done a lot of work to make me seem not personable on this show, but we don't need to go any further, man.
Dude, no wonder you feel the need to periodically inject heroin into your blood.
Speaking of that, it's like you're talking about all of this, like the thing, like you're a completely changed person. I have a thought about how to actually get back to that initial high.
Okay.
Playing a different character. It's interesting because, I mean, this is only if you want to go back to those initial moments. But so at this local, I played Wolf. I played Wolf in tournament for the very first time, and I got a really important win with Wolf, and that feeling felt so much different than any other of my wins with DK. It felt like winning, like winning for the first time in bracket, like ever.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's what it is. But I mean, it felt like I just came to a tournament for the first time and I won. So it's actually interesting how changing the context of your progression and like resetting. It's like in an RPG, like making a new account and like experiencing those really fast level ups again. I feel like that's, if you really are chasing that, finding a new character to be obsessed with is actually an interesting way to do it.
That's actually a pretty good idea. I like that. I also think that there's, like, what's the basis of that, right? The basis of that is you're recontextualizing your goal, right? So instead of being a good player, now all of a sudden you want to be a good wolf, right? In your case.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the meat of it. Like, let's say, in my case, for instance, my goals were always to be the best in my region, right? And I did kind of accomplish that. But it's like America bragging about World War II. Like, that was Smash 4. It doesn't matter. Like, it's been so long. Like, can we really keep bragging about this? No. So I have to earn my stripes again. And maybe I do have to change the nature of that goal in order to, like, really truly shed my ego and to truly start from the ground floor in a way that is authentic. And maybe that is, picking a character that's different than what I normally would gravitate towards. Or maybe it's, I don't know, maybe I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to win a new game. Every game I win, I'm going to change characters, or like whatever, like recontextualizing the goal in whatever way I want to.
Yeah, I do want to stop you right there just to make it clear that we're not suggesting this as your solution for getting better at the game. In fact, this is likely that it may help maybe like 10 or 15% of people, but this is actually not a good solution, especially if you are if you have reached a really high position with your character and you want to and you want to progress. Switching your character is not necessarily the right answer, and there's actually some deep questions, like we said before, that you need to answer. You need to be really self-aware, and for trying not to typecast myself, but yes, you got to do some introspecting.
Bro, it's like you've long since typecasted yourself, maybe.
Fair, no, but I'll give it.
Yeah, let me clarify, because I said it. Yeah. I'm not saying you should change characters after every time you win, at all. That was just a really bad, quick example I thought of. You can recontextualize your goals in many ways. Maybe it's like, I want to win a tournament in this town, or I want to go to a tournament with this friend and win in front of them. It really could be whatever. but I think an augmentation of your original goal, yeah, like can definitely shed some ego because you're trying to prove something entirely different, right? Like that's kind of you're no longer trying to be the best, you're trying to be the best in these specific pre-orchestrated circumstances, which for me, I think that sounds like a cool solution.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like playing a side quest instead of playing the main story. I mean, you're not getting the fastest progression, or nor is it the thing that'll lead you to the final stage of your feelings of accomplishment. But it's something that's important, and if it's a goal that you set for yourself, you can feel a lot of validation from accomplishing that goal. And speaking of side quests, I know you had a really good point that you wanted to develop about kind of bringing in stuff from that's kind of outside of just playing the game.
I did?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. do you want me to go there?
and the thing is, I think that's so important because I feel like that is bringing this whole other context of side quests or things that are, as you say, peripheral to the game. I think you're able to recontextualize a lot of your Smash goals.
Yeah. So, but I guess you already outed me. For full disclosure, but before the show, I was just kind of fired up about this topic, and one thing specifically was I think that ego is the poison of all peripheral aspects of Super Smash Brothers. And let me elaborate. Commentators, that's a big one. TOs, bracket runners. Who else? Who else is in the scene? Stream operators, whatever. Those are the main ones. I don't know, I'm trying to think of all these positions that don't exist. Ego, I do see in these positions, runs rampant, and it makes sense. Like commentators, TOs, people that operate the stream, they're usually some of the more established people within a region, right? They're usually some of the, in quotation marks, higher ups of a local scene or of a regional scene or national scene, and they've had some success within their little microcosm in order to elevate them to that position. A lot of the times it is merit based. Like, let's talk about commentators. Usually commentators don't just become commentators because someone's, because of political reasons. I mean, there's certainly a huge part of that. But at the end of the day, they probably have demonstrated the value over a long period of time, right? But just as we see with players, these kind of people can also be, well, corrupted maybe is too harsh of a word, but whatever, we'll just go with it. Corrupted by ego. And this is a danger that I think isn't called out a lot because maybe there's no direct solution to it. But the dangers of it are that when the TOs of a region or the other higher ups have this sort of power trip, this sort of self-confidence, the self-assuredness beyond what would be normal or socially acceptable, it can be very off-putting and very scary as a newbie. I mean, I feel like they take themselves, the danger is they can take themselves so seriously that we forget that we're just playing a video game together, and there's kids and parents that come and first time smashers, and they just think the game's fun, and they don't know about all this exterior stuff. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's a real danger that concerns me a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of apologize for jumping the gun there on your point, because it's a lot the direction's a lot different than I thought it would go. But your point is very important nonetheless. I think that the ego that is spawned in people with power in regions is very palpable. It's something that, I mean, I would be lying through my teeth if I said that I hadn't experienced it myself.
When you were the TO, you mean?
Of course, yeah.
Well, I'll personally vouch for you, Abhi. You were always fantastic, but regardless.
Well, thank you. But there was this huge, there was this whole entitlement in the sense that I am important. I there was this I mean, obviously, I made sure to never make it show through because it was always kind of a battle of the fact that that I was like the main person running everything, organizing everything, conducting the PR panel, like, and because I had so much of this involvement, I did feel this this entitlement grow and this and my ego grow to become accustomed to these roles.
Avy, I just thought of something, dude. I'm gonna out you, okay?
No. Oh no.
So,
oh no.
Because, well, okay. I'm gonna let you tell it if you want to. I already outed myself. Sure. I'm not gonna out you as well.
No,
I think you should tell the story of Overruled.
Oh man, you guys are in for a treat. Oh god, you know what? I will, mostly for the sake of everyone should be held accountable. I will say when I'm looking back on this is that this was a mistake. this was a mistake of being a TO, and this was what happens when ego does kind of get to you. But so basically, what happened is that there was a PR panel, and the panel had, in my opinion, very like inconclusively and irrationally decided one position.
Well, describe what a PR panel is for people that don't know.
Sure thing. A PR panel stands for Power Ranking Panel. Now, usually in your region, there will be like this group of people that decides, okay, who are the best players according to like the last, let's say, like 10 weeks or maybe the season. And these people are charged with the responsibility of determining people's like self-worth. Like it's pretty important, especially for people who consider this their main hobby. So we take it pretty seriously, even though theoretically there's not much that gets carried with this. There's no sponsorship really in small regions that gets carried with this. It's mostly just for bragging rights and for feeling good that you played well. And
validation, glory.
Exactly, yeah, validation and glory, which is very important for a lot of people, and it was important for me as well. And being someone who has been through a lot of these panels, I knew I was the one who probably carried the burden of understanding how important it was for everyone. And there was this one situation where I was absolutely certain that we messed up. And I was like certain to the point where I was like, this is ridiculous. Like we cannot possibly be placing this person that high with the amount of information that we had. And so the PR panel came to a decision, and if I were to go back in time, this probably would be one of the only things in life I would redo. But I actually overruled that one decision, and I only changed one position. But nonetheless, what happened is that literally no one really cared that much except for Peon. Peon was literally the only person. Everyone else said, "Yeah, you know what? That makes sense."
No, bro, you published the document, and your final list was different than the one that the PR panel had agreed upon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then Avy would do this thing where you would write these elaborate, ornate, thorough justification documents to justify every single position on the power rankings in like very wonderful statistical on a wonderful statistical basis. And on one of the rankings, it just wrote like in italics, like it was so AV, it was so pretentious. It was like overruled. It was, and I was like, Avy, who are you to just overrule the democratically assembled panel? And it was really funny. And AV, yeah, totally on. I mean, look, dude, that was like the one annoying thing you did in like 2 years of TOing, and you totally owned up to it and apologized. And it was no sweat off my back. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like you were in a position of you were in a position of power, and rightly so. You were the most qualified, most excellent person at the job that we could have had. And that said, you know, even you could succumb to it, right?
Yeah. I mean, again, like I'm saying, I'm not even defending what I did, even though I don't even care like how justified I was in doing it. No matter what, I should have followed the democratic process. And the thing is, when you get into this position where you feel like you've done this for ages, you feel like you're your reasoning is good, you have the power, and then you follow through. It's not good because it sets a precedent. It sets kind of this tyrannical precedent that that players are not in control of their own destiny.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take this like the same exact concept. I mean, what you did wasn't as serious as it was funny, especially in hindsight. But I'll just be straight up honest. I could care less. In many of the so in our region, the Central Coast, we Avi and I hail from a very wonderful slice of California. We're very privileged in the fact that the people that we were surrounded with throughout Smash 4 and Ultimate, very 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 nice people. I don't know why we just won the lottery. A bunch of sweethearts, very welcoming. You show up to one of the tournaments, people will say hi to you. People will ask to play with you. People will congratulate you on your successes. It's a very wholesome community. And then, I take the drive down to SoCal and I show up and it's like this esports, hyper competitive, ultra impersonal experience. And it shocked me. It was frankly off-putting. If that was my first ever tournament experience, I don't think I would have come back because nobody approached me. Nobody cared that I was there. Nobody looked me in the eyes. And I've since met a lot of the community in SoCal and a lot of the TOs, and there's a lot of amazingly kind people in the Southern California Smash scene. Some real great friends I've made down there and lovely people. So I'm not I'm not hating on them, but I think because SoCal, for instance, is so privileged as like the home of so many major tournaments and such high production value in so many tournaments, they kind of have let it get to their heads as a region. And I think that it's to a detriment. I think that it's easy to lose sight of the little things when you're so constantly validated and when you have so many good things going for you, And I think it's important to point out.
I think that you're right. I mean, I will say that creating a scene and scaling a scene is extremely difficult in the sense that you have this culture that you want to preserve in the Central Coast. One of the most important things that I said as a TO to every new player that came, to every existing player that came, is that the most important people is like, there is no most important group. It's just that new people are important, old people are important. So make everyone feel valued and everyone feel like they need to be there and they want to be there. So it's a matter of inculcating the culture in such like a deep
inculcating
manner. Yes.
Did you pick up that word from one of your heroin friends? What is that?
It's just instilling and installing the culture at such a deep level so that you literally like spread it to every new person that comes, and that and that it's just becomes a very standard thing from the bottom up. You can't do this top down. This is one of those things, like just like good economic systems, it always works from the bottom up.
So you're not a fan of Reaganomics, you're saying?
Yeah. Well, let's not get into that. I have lots of economic opinions. If you didn't know, that is one of the things I studied in college. But I do think that that SoCal, not really to their fault, because it's kind of hard to just think about, especially in this hyper competitive environment, was basically instilling this culture, and maybe that's not what they valued. SoCal is by far, and has been by far, maybe not in Ultimate, but in Smash 4, was the best region. Now you could arguably say it's Florida because of all of the because of all of the really top players from there.
Japan.
Japan too, yes. And I think that that when you have this competitive nature, like basically it just becomes a meritocracy. It becomes capitalism. Whereas that's because it's big, it's huge. Well, notice countries like America are capitalistic. It's because we're too big not to. We're too big to. I mean, we could sustain socialism, like we could, but it's like the equilibrium, the status quo, like defaults to this thing where it's just meritocratic because it's too hard to take control of everything. And then you look at countries like Singapore, which are very, very like strongly controlled by government because they're so small. So that is one of the things why, like, if you have a small scene, you have the ability to have so much control over the scene. This being said, I think in your big scenes, in your small scenes, in your mid-level scenes, instilling the culture of valuing everyone and valuing positive behavior. I'll say like valuing positive behavior and valuing people is so important, because at the end of the day, if you're not in one of these regions that just has the privilege of getting people simply based off of competitive drive, you're going to lose all of the baseline people that attend your tournaments.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. It's sustained. Smash is a scene. If you guys are listening and you're like a 1-2 or an 0-2, or maybe you've never been to a tournament before, maybe you're not even super into competitive, you just like Smash and you listen to the podcast, you are the reason that the competitive scene exists. Without you, good players don't win any money, or the best players don't win any money, which means they have no incentive to improve, to get better. You know, Nintendo. If you've never been to a tournament, you're casual. Guess what? Nintendo's selling to people just like you. You are the people that justify the creation of this game that we all play. So, the masses carry the burden in terms of the Smash community. And so, when I see people kind of clout chasing, or people kind of getting absorbed, like even like you and I have, like we've talked about in this episode, I think it's important to realize the reason that we're all doing this in the first place is we enjoy the game, and we enjoy what we get out of the game, and also understand that the people that support us on our journeys are the reason that our journeys are, you know, able to be taken at all. Like, you can't improve if there's no one to beat. So if you're a top player, the people that you beat need to be nurtured and appreciated and coaxed back to enjoying the hobby next week. Otherwise, you're going to be, what is it, like the king of skeletons or whatever, you know? Like, you can rule over dead people, but what's that going to do for you?
Yeah, true enough. I think that's like sums up the topic pretty well, because not necessarily the topic of ego, but kind of the idea of the periphery, the poison of the periphery, as you put it so eloquently. I yeah, I feel like you just like went and you just kind of stole that from like, I was like dreaming, and you kind of just walked into my dream, and you just like pulled it from me.
Did you just suggest that I was in, like, the only feasible way that I could have come up with the phrase poison of the periphery is if I somehow stole it from you? Maybe cleverness does not begin and end between your two earlobes. Okay?
Looks like I have an ego.
Oh, this is, see, now you guys understand why I need to make AV talk about ego. This whole episode was a ploy to get you to. This is an intervention, AV. Intervention.
Dude, you got me. If this was it, you got me.
I wrote you a letter.
Dude, you got me, man.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I want to bring it back before we close this episode. I want to bring it back to ego, and from the player's perspective. You know, I want to talk about how ego relates to growth and how they can be at odds with each other. What are your thoughts on this? Like, how do you think that you can improve? And you can, you know, see these results. You can see these changes in your personality and in your play style. And how can you prevent this slow, creeping, egotistical nightmare from taking hold of you?
I think this is a really, really difficult question, but let me break it down. One of the most important things is that there's this like wonderful balance between confidence and arrogance. I think that whenever you succeed at something or you reach a goal, you need to be happy. You need to love yourself for it. If you don't, then what happens is that you are not sure of yourself. You become unable to really help others in your similar situation. You question yourself all the time, and you have this like permanent imposter syndrome. If you don't know what imposter syndrome is, you just think that all of your achievements are really not your own, and they're kind of the product of something in your environment or maybe of someone else. So making sure that you love yourself and you appreciate your W's is super important. I think that on the other hand, the more obvious other hand is that is that you don't want to be giving yourself too much credit for this. And there is this wonderful balance. And the thing is, striking that balance is like way easier said than done. And even I don't think I can really preach and like coach you how to perfectly strike that balance. But the thing is to always understand that there's always a bigger fish. That'll keep you grounded because I mean, even if you're the top of your region, until you're number one at the PGR, you can't say anything. Like once you're there, I mean, even if you're there, it's like, how long have you been at the top? So like, and then you're just trying to set a record. I mean, that's what like people who get to the top and stay at the top, they think they're just competing with themselves. But the beautiful part is you're always competing with yourself. And you're competing with a previous version of yourself. Learn that improving doesn't necessarily mean improving your results, and learn and understand, most importantly, understand the fact that like other people can improve at the same time you do, which is kind of a crazy thing. The human mind, literally the ego is the self-centered part of you. And this will prevent you from looking at things from another person's perspective. So understanding that you are not like the sole like center of the universe, and understand that your accomplishments are constantly being achieved by people around the world, is that kind of helps center yourself and just make sure to chase a better version of yourself and not a better version of something that you see in someone else.
Yeah, I love that answer. I think you know, like we so often come to the conclusion that it all comes back to yourself. It all comes back to understanding, how am I different than I was a week ago? What strengths of my gameplay did I increase? And as that relates to ego, it's understanding that there is no finish line to this race. We're all on the treadmill, and there is no destination here. Smash is one of those things that you can never master, and you can never act like you did. That was my pitfall when I dominated my region. For I got the 3-peat number one on the PR 3 seasons in a row, and for me, I was like, gluttonous. I had overeaten. I was like, I'm the best player to ever live, and yeah, like there's always a carrot to chase. There is no end game, unless you decide for yourself that there is. But that's the beauty of it. It's the perpetual hobby. It is the pursuit of. It's like that Will Smith movie, The Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah, it is kind of that, except it's not so simple. In most Eastern cultures, there's this concept called samsara, or it's described differently in other
languages.
Samsara? No, not samsara. It's called samsara. It's basically means this endless cycle of chasing materialistic things. And humans are, and basically the core concept is that humans are stuck in this, and then they reach enlightenment once they get out of this natural cycle. And unfortunately, all of us have to accept that we're kind of in this cycle. So kind of making the most of it is the best thing to do, unless you want to just kind of let go of your earthly tether and and just kind of ascend into the crazy world that is non-materialism.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I love it. I love it. I think that like a conclusion that I'm drawing. I don't really have anything to add to that, so I'm just gonna take this elsewhere. I think the conclusion that I'm drawing to all of this is that, you know, at the end of the day, if you're very goal oriented, if you're very results oriented, not that those two are the same, but let's say you're very results oriented, and you want to win, and you fall short, and it really bothers you, like really grabs hold of you, digs in your, I don't know, brain, and you think about it before you go to sleep. I invite you to self-analyze and to kind of come to the conclusion, like, what motivates me? Like, even if I did win tonight and I lost another night, would that not be enough? Like, is the only way I'll enjoy this whether or not I'm improving, or whether or not I'm like living up to my own expectations, or the result, achieving the results that I believe I'm entitled to. If that's what's motivating you, if that's kind of the way you're thinking about it, I invite you to kind of try to humble up. Like, I challenge you to smile in defeat, and to genuinely yearn for fun, and to genuinely be content with your shortcomings. Not still hungry, but understand that, like, just because I took a step backwards today doesn't mean I can't take 2 steps forward tomorrow. And to be comfortable with that fact. That's definitely what I'm going to be trying to incorporate into my mindset going into the future. And I hope it pays off for me.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice, and I couldn't have said it better.
Well, AV, I think it's about time we get into this week's questions.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, man. Well, the first one comes from Ultimate, a frequent questionnaire. What a guy. He asks, what is the time each of you got the most tilted in a match? What went through your head? How did it affect the set? And looking back, what would you have done differently to get out of that mindset? What are you laughing?
It's because it's like I've never been tilted during a set, except for because it takes a lot to to tilt me. But what I do, it's literally only one time, and there was a time when I played Sheik in Smash 4. Sheik was my very first main before I switched over to the illustrious Grape Ape, and I think that I was playing. I was playing against this Bowser player in my region, and in game 1, he said out loud during the match, "Is all you're gonna do sit there and throw needles at me?" This was during the tournament set. He turned over and said that to me. And I had no idea how to take, because I didn't think anyone would actually do that. Literally no one has ever talked to me like that. And if they have, it's usually like it's like really friendly. Like sometimes you'll have like a really friendly tournament match with someone, and you're both having fun and just like, and you're just kind of bantering, and it's like super cool. This was literally the opposite. Like, this guy was actively BMing me, and the thing is, it got to me. I started approaching him every time. I played super aggressive, even though I didn't want to, and I lost the set. Like, it was awful. And I've never been like, this is like, it's super out of character for me, because like you can do literally anything. Like, I don't get mad at any For Glory tactics, or like any gimmicks, or if someone does something silly online, I'm just like, whatever. Like, if someone does silly in person, like, it's whatever. But that moment, I actually don't know what I'd do to get out of that. I lost. I don't know what I would have done differently, but I mean, I don't know how to react other than just to keep a cooler head.
Yeah. I think that's funny. For me, when it comes to tilting, like, I don't. This is gonna sound a bit ironically egotistical, but I am really good at not getting tilted. I have a very good competitive mind. Like when I play a match, I don't really get tilted. I've been competitive gaming since I was like 5 years old, and I've been an athlete my whole life. I played basketball in high school in a basketball town, and there would be thousands of people at these games. It was very competitive. People would be yelling from the stands, "Ginger, you bitch, Ginger," and screaming at me. And you develop tough skin a little bit. And so I don't know. Like I think I was just kind of cut out to not getting tilted. But I will tell you this: in tilted, I accept as like you play worse as a result. Like you let it affect you in a way that's not good. But there's a Luigi player in in my region a great friend of mine, love him. He listens to the show. I hope you hear this, Diamond Down fan. But he'll kill you. Okay, you'll be up like 2 stocks, and he'll kill you with like some bread and butter combo, and he'll just like start violently shaking in his chair, like yes, yes, and he'll like taunt in game, and like he's just a really silly guy, but it can come off, especially to strangers, as annoying. And so whenever I play against him, he starts doing that stuff. I get like pseudo tilted, where I'm like, oh, this guy right now, really? But I just end up playing a lot better as a result. Like I play super lame, and I really try to make him regret doing that. That's kind of like, but I don't know. So that's kind of a lame. That's kind of a cop out answer, but
I mean, no, that's good. I mean, my answer was, but I'm like the same way. I really just don't get tilted, except that one time. And the thing is, I love the guy. Like, yeah, I love the guy now. But that was, I think, my very first set with him and my very first interaction with him, and that set it off on a really funny tone. So I think we're gonna go on to the next question. From Vitriol. I find myself raging a lot online when losing to gimmicks and ridiculous rule sets. I know it's poisoning me. My question is, how do I fight that attitude/instinct?
yeah, that's a Vitriol. First of all, the fact that you're questioning it is a great first start. Like a lot of people, most people that rage that I've encountered, always have an excuse for their rage. They'll yell, they'll get mad, and be like, "Yo, dude, like, what's up?" I played Counter-Strike with this guy in college. Sweetest guy in the whole world. He'd bake a cake for your grandma. Like he knows how to like make banana bread. You know what I mean? He's just one of those guys. Super nice, sweet, gentle soul. But the moment he dies in Counter-Strike, he'll scream at the top of his lungs like, "What? He's lagging!" And it would freak out. And I'd be like, dude, there's no way that's helping your play. Like that could not be helping our team. You're just like you're allowing yourself to get too emotional. And then he'd answer back with, "Dude, like let me just get upset and play the game, like whatever." Like, or like he would always have some deflection, or maybe I was just genuinely being annoying about it. But I think that your acknowledgement is a huge first step. So how do you fight that? I say attack at its source. What's making you upset? You said losing to gimmicks and ridiculous rule sets. I think that this is a classic example of you're putting up false unoptimal expectations to what you're going to be getting out of the online experience. The online experience, for better or for worse, no, certainly for worse, is terrible, man. It's terrible. Like if you play online to get a legitimate tournament kind of level competitive practice, you're in the wrong place. If you want some like okay, decent experience and like with a sort of a casual twang, knowing that at any point you could play against any character with any rule set on any stage, like you have to know that going into it. You know what I mean? Like that's what you should expect, and anything better than that needs to be like a blessing from on high.
Yeah.
Avy?
Yeah, I mean that summed it up really well. Just carry your expectations with that wonderful dose of self-awareness, and that's all I have to say. I'm gonna fire off this final question.
Oh, here we go.
Sam I am Boof asks,
aka Ferris from the Discord.
Yep. He asks, "What is the canonical color of Donkey Kong?"
Oh no!
What is it? What is it, Peon? What is it?
It's purple.
Thank you.
Did
If
you
guys
tell him
don't-
to ask you that? Did you pay him? Like, why would he have asked that?
I have no clue. I have nothing to do with this at all.
Just tell the story real quick.
Okay, I'll tell the story. Hey, you told my you made me tell my story. I'm telling this one.
That's fair.
Yeah. So a while back, I think Peon and I played Game and Watch Dittos in Smash 4 for like two different, or I think this might have been a Game and Watch Ditto or a Falcon Ditto.
It was a game I watched it on stream. We did like
oh yeah.
So one of my stream viewers like challenged us.
Right. Okay. And the bet was I don't know what Peon would have gotten if he wins, but but no one remembers that anymore. But I told him, if you lose this, you will have to forever tell me that forever admit that the canonical color of Donkey Kong is purple.
And then suspiciously, like 2 years later, after AV and I started Smash Brothers podcast, and we have a question section, one of our listeners just happens to ask that question, AV. I am so skeptical of you and Ferris from the Discord. I'm on to both of you.
Regardless, that's neither here nor there. But you're a good sport. You're a man of your word, and I respect you immensely.
So, guys, for now, that's all we have this week. That said, it's been a pleasure, AV. Where can people find you?
People can find me at A plus my long Indian last name, Abhi Vaidyanatha. Where can people find you, Peon?
You can, of course, find me at Peon_GCE. That is Golf Charlie Echo for all of you military folk. And you can find our show's Twitter at Beyond Metagame. Beyond Metagame. You see, Twitter did not allocate any room for the, so it's just Beyond Metagame. And which is really frustrating that I always have to say that. And even more importantly, you can find our Discord in the show notes or in the YouTube description or on our website. And we have an awesome community that is just always rustling and bustling. And we love those guys over there. Super friendly group of people that are always playing matches, are always learning from each other. We're doing VOD reviews. It's just a really good way to talk to me and AV, over the mic or by text or with other like-minded smashers. So seriously, consider joining it. There's never been a better time to join. But for now, that is all we have. Thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.